The Compound, Helmand Province, 2009. A Marine raider, one of the first MARSOC operators deployed to Afghanistan, is inside a room that has gone wrong. His rifle barrel is pinned against the doorframe. The man in front of him is 6 feet away and closing. No angle to bring the muzzle up. No space, no time. He draws the pistol on his hip. Not the Beretta M9 that most of the American military carries. Not the 9mm NATO standard that has been the official U.S. service sidearm for 24 years. The pistol he draws is a .45, built on a frame designed in 1911, chambered for a cartridge that exists because the United States Army already learned, at lethal cost, what happens when a pistol cannot produce enough force to stop a man who has decided that dying is acceptable and slowing down is not. He fires. The threat stops. The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq were fought with many weapons. MARSOC carried most of them. But the question of which pistol these Marines would carry into those rooms was not settled in Helmand Province. It was settled in the Philippine jungle more than a century before, paid for in American blood. And then, through a chain of decisions that made complete bureaucratic sense, it was forgotten. Then it had to be learned again. The 9mm Parabellum is not a weak cartridge. It is not a bad round. Before you understand why MARSOC rejected it, you have to understand why the United States Army, NATO, and most of the Western military world adopted it, and why that adoption, on its own terms, was completely rational. In 1985, the U.S. military retired the M1911A1 and replaced it with the Beretta M92 FS, chambered in 9mm, and designated the M9. The argument for the switch was systematic and sound. The 9mm offered 15 rounds in the magazine to the 1911's 7. It produced significantly less recoil, which meant faster target reacquisition and more consistent shot placement across a force of hundreds of thousands of soldiers with varying training levels. It was already the NATO standard, meaning American forces operating alongside Allied units could share ammunition. A logistical simplification that, at alliance scale, eliminates a category of supply chain failures that kill soldiers before a single shot is fired. The M9 cleared every test in the Joint Services Small Arms Program. Accurate, reliable, ergonomic, easier to maintain in the field. The Army's procurement logic was, by every available metric, correct. The Army was building a service sidearm for a conventional force configured to fight a conventional war. In a European theater conflict, Warsaw-packed armor pushing through the Fulda Gap, the scenario the military had spent a generation preparing for, a pistol is almost never drawn. It sits at the end of a sequence that begins at artillery range and works inward. At that point in the fight, what matters is capacity and interoperability, not the terminal effect of any single round. For that war, for that soldier, the 9mm was the right answer. That war never came. The war that did come looked nothing like it. The lesson the Army chose to forget in 1985 had already been paid for once. The cost had been American soldiers dying because their pistol could not stop men who had decided to keep moving. From 1899 to 1913, American forces in the southern Philippine Islands fought Moro insurgents, Muslim warriors whose commitment to close-quarters combat routinely overwhelmed the .38 long Colt's ability to stop them. Contemporary accounts from the campaign describe fighters binding their torsos before attacks to restrict blood flow, and charges continuing well after multiple rounds had been fired. Soldiers emptied the revolver into men who kept coming. The round punched through without generating enough force to stop a body already in forward motion with a bladed weapon in its hand. American soldiers died in those moments, not from a lack of ammunition, from the wrong ammunition. In 1904, the Army commissioned Colonel John Thompson and Colonel Thompson-LaGarde to resolve the question scientifically. They conducted documented testing, cadavers, live cattle, every available military cartridge, against measurable physiological thresholds for incapacitation. Their findings were decisive. A military pistol required a minimum bore diameter of .45 caliber to reliably stop an attacker who intended to keep going. John Browning built the cartridge. Then, he built the gun. The M1911 entered service in 1911 and remained in continuous U.S. service for 74 years, through 2 world wars, Korea, and Vietnam. Because every generation of Americans who carried it into close-range combat came back with the same report. When you needed a man to stop, it stopped him. In 1985, the Army set it aside. The institutional logic was genuine, the NATO pressures were real, and the procurement process was not designed to weigh the scenario the Thompson-LaGarde study had identified as the decisive test: a determined enemy at close range in the specific moment where a second shot may not be possible. That scenario did not appear in the Warsaw Pact battle models. MARSOC's predecessors in force reconnaissance understood exactly what had been set aside. They declined to set it aside themselves. Before MARSOC existed, Marine armorers were already solving the problem with their hands. Starting in the late 1980s, armorers working through specialized Marine programs began hand-building 1911 pattern pistols for Force Recon operators. Not production weapons, custom ones, worked to tolerances no factory pistol met. Tightened barrel-to-slide fit, match-grade barrel, tritium night sights, beveled magwell cut for faster reloads under stress. Each pistol required roughly 40 hours of skilled armorer work, the equivalent of a full work week devoted to a single sidearm. Not because the program had unlimited time, but because the missions Force Recon was running did not allow for a pistol that was merely adequate. Marines designated them MARSOC pistols, for Marine Expeditionary Unit, Special Operations Capable. They chambered every one in .45 ACP. This was not sentiment. This was doctrine-made hardware. Force Recon operators were entering buildings at distances where every argument for the 9mm, capacity, recoil management, alliance logistics, was irrelevant. What mattered was the distance to the threat when the door came down, which was typically less than 10 feet, and whether the first round from the pistol on an operator's thigh would end the engagement before the engagement ended him. When MARSOC officially stood up in February 2006, it was built from Force Recon Marines who had been running this doctrine for nearly 2 decades. That knowledge came with them. And in 2012, MARSOC formalized what the operators already understood. The Marine Corps adopted the Colt M45A1 close quarters battle pistol, a factory 1911 in .45 ACP, railed for a weapon light, finished in a proprietary brown isonite coating, built to the standards the MARSOC program had established over 15 years of field use. Much of the U.S. military, including most SOCOM components, had settled around 9mm sidearms. MARSOC looked at that consensus, looked at what their operators were bringing back from combat, and said no. The M45A1 carried one answer that no argument about magazine capacity could reach. In the room, you cannot leave until the threat is down. The round either stops the man, or it does not. At contact distance, there is no time for a different approach. Fallujah, Iraq, November 7, 2004. Operation Phantom Fury pushed into the city with 10,000 coalition troops, Marines, Army, Iraqi security forces, into a dense grid of residential compounds and commercial structures that insurgent defenders had spent months converting into a hardened complex. They had watched the American buildup from inside the city and had months to act on what they saw. Force Recon Marines were in the assault. These were the men who would form the founding core of MARSOC 15 months later. The same operators, the same culture, the same close-quarters doctrine built through years of MARSOC pistol work. They carried .45 ACP into Fallujah, and what they found inside those buildings put the Thompson-LaGarde question back on the table. The defenders had knocked holes through shared walls throughout the city, connecting separate residential structures into linked fighting positions that allowed fighters to move between buildings without stepping into the street. In the Jolan district, the oldest part of the city, where lanes ran barely wide enough for 2 men abreast, compounds have been turned into defensive warrens designed specifically to deny American long gun advantages. The resulting environment was a system of interconnected rooms, each connected to the next through a hole in the shared wall, rarely wider than a man's shoulders. Corridors were narrow. Doorways were narrower. In that geometry, a rifle is a problem. The barrel length prevents quick indexing inside a doorframe. The buttstock catches on the threshold. In the interval between breaching a room and knowing what's inside, with a threat already at close range and in motion, a rifle is the wrong shape for the problem. What drew and functioned was the pistol. The MARSOC 45 cleared leather cleanly. It indexed at contact distance. What Force Recon operators trusted, at the ranges that Fallujah demanded, was a cartridge engineered for a specific problem: stopping a man in motion at close range. The 45 caliber projectile is nearly twice the diameter of a 9mm round. At pistol distances, under the full metal jacket constraints that military law imposes on American forces, those physics produce a different result than the civilian hollow point loads that had begun rehabilitating 9mm's reputation in law enforcement circles. In Fallujah, with FMJ ammunition, at 8 feet, the 45 carried an advantage the M9 could not match on equal terms. That distinction mattered because military forces were bound by treaty to fire FMJ. The 9mm's improving reputation in the early 2000s had been built almost entirely on law enforcement hollow point data. Rounds that transferred energy differently, closed up rather than passed through, and produced wound profiles that FMJ could not replicate. American soldiers in Fallujah did not have that ammunition. They had what the 1985 procurement study had tested against: a round optimized for the wrong fight in the wrong theater. And the cartridge specifically engineered for stopping power in 1904 still carried the argument in the rooms where the fight actually happened. Force Recon came home from Fallujah with that understanding built into every doctrine they carried forward. 15 months later, when MARSOC stood up, it became part of the founding knowledge base. The M45A1 in 2012 was not loyalty to an old weapon. It was a doctrine that had been tested every time a Force Recon Marine drew a pistol inside a compound in Iraq. The 9mm advocates were not wrong. They were answering a different question. When that question eventually changed, they fixed the answer and kept the caliber. Every argument that carried the M9 into service was valid for the scenario it was written against: capacity, recoil management, training efficiency, alliance logistics. These advantages were real, and in a conventional force fighting a conventional engagement, they translated into genuine improvements. The 9mm didn't fail to deliver what its procurement case promised. It delivered exactly that. The fight went somewhere the procurement case had not followed. The Army eventually acknowledged that the M9 era requirements were outdated. In 2017, it selected the Sig Sauer P320 as its modular handgun system. The new requirements included better ergonomics, improved accuracy, and support for modern 9mm ammunition engineered for terminal performance, the kind of hollow point loads that had been unavailable to military forces in Fallujah. 32 years after retiring the 1911, the Army arrived at the same performance standard Marine Raiders had never abandoned. It got there a different way. The Army did not return to the 45 ACP. It stayed with 9mm and rebuilt everything around it. By the mid-2000s, MARSOC itself had moved in the same direction, fielding the 9mm Glock 19 alongside the M45A1. The story was not simply that the 45 was right and the 9mm was wrong. The ammunition had changed. Modern 9mm loads, developed in part because of years of operator feedback from exactly the kind of close-quarters combat Force Recon and Marine Raiders had been running, had closed much of the gap the Thompson-LaGarde era had identified. The physics of the cartridge had not changed. The engineering around it had. None of this is comfortable and none of it is simple. The Thompson-LaGarde study in 1904 produced a tested finding about what a military pistol required against a determined enemy at close range, under the constraints of military ammunition law. For 74 years, that finding shaped American doctrine. Then, the weight of alliance and procurement priorities shifted it. The finding did not change. The weighting changed. Marine raiders held that waiting for a decade longer than almost any other major American military community. Not out of loyalty to an old pistol, because they had been in those buildings, at those distances, with the ammunition law allowed. And what they found in those rooms was not an argument. It was a result. When the rest of the institution eventually caught up, they closed the gap not by returning to the .45, but by making the 9mm into what the .45 had always been. The gap was real. It took 2 decades of war and a generation of ballistic research to close it. The dark reason MARSOC held the .45 as long as they did is not complicated. They had been in those buildings. They knew what FMJ did and didn't do. At 8 feet, against a man who had committed to reaching them, that was not sentiment. It was experience. And Marine Raiders were the last major American military community to stop acting on it. That is the kind of history this channel is built to find. The gap between what the official answer promised and what the rooms actually demanded. If that's what you're here for, subscribe. There is more to find.